So there I was on our last camping adventure, and I was getting ready to fill up our freshwater tank because the site I was at does not have permanent city water connection, which I know I need to get a cap for that, so we were filling our freshwater tank. The problem was, the last time we were out, I went to drain our freshwater tank, and what you had to do, because like I said, this is a little bit more camper, is basically crawl up underneath here and take these two caps off, and then take this cap off. There used to be a stem with a cap, and then water would pour on the floor, and you're laying on the ground underneath the camper and getting wet, and you're laying basically right underneath the I don't know if you can see this, but the gray water hose and the black water hose pipe, and just not a pleasant place to be. So anyway, when we had it out, I just took the cap off. It was pouring down rain. I took the cap off and we ran. I gave it to my wife, said, here, hold on to this, I'll need it later. And in good-natured, we'll get to it later-isms, I never put it back on. So when I went to fill our freshwater tank, there was no cap there. Nor did the camp store sell any caps, which was rather unfortunate. And luckily, I had a hose clamp and a marker that fit the hose that was there as a 1/2-inch hose. So I cut it off, put the hose clamp and the marker, shoved the marker in, put the hose clamp on, filled the tank. But I thought there had to be a better way than crawling underneath here, so I decided I'm going to re-engineer this. I got this section of frame right here. What I'd like to do is actually bring the valve out to about here, so I can reach in, unscrew it, and drain it. Just a regular valve, and I'll tie these two drains and that drain into it. So I went to my local fill-in-the-blank big box store to buy some stuff. And what I ended up buying is this 1/2-inch PEX tube, a couple T's, a couple clamps, and these FN female national pipe thread fittings. And this is a boiler drain. It's got the nice little screw-on connection with a PEX connection here. Piece of aluminum, of course, that 10-foot section of pipe. And we're going to put something together. We're not exactly sure exactly what it's going to look like in the end, but here we go. Alright, so I laid underneath the camper, and this frame said we're going to put 2 holes. We'll just use a couple 1/4-inch self-tappers I have laying around. And please ignore how crooked that is, but that is approximately where I want to make my bend. Now I haven't figured out how long, like how close to the ground I want to make it, but this will bring it out to the edge flush with the camper. Once I get that bend in it and those holes drilled, I'm going to crawl underneath and mark about where I think I need to cut this puppy off, and then we'll cut her off and where the hole needs to go for the drain valve. Alrighty, let's do it. Alright, quick tip, because I just did it. This was not a PEX tube fitting like I thought. There was a hose on here, but it was regular, that nylon braided white hose. So what I did, I couldn't get this to fit up on, is I took my trusty little heat gun there and I heated up for, I don't know, maybe 2 minutes, and this stuff became basically rubber, and I slid it up on. Now it's cooling. It's hot to the touch, but it's never coming off there. The only thing I gotta watch is now it's weak in there, so I may not. We'll have to see about how I bend that around. I was just planning on bending it, sweeping it over. We'll see how it goes. But anyway, I got my bracket mounted. These they're nutted on the back side, just two grade like 2 bolts. It ain't nothing much gonna hold it. Just drilled some holes in the frame. I did move it back once I bent it, and I got the what do they call these? The spigot mounted. It protruded too far beyond the outside of the camper for my taste, so I moved it back about an inch or so. But anyway, this is just a regular it's a boiler drain, and I liked it because it has this handy dandy little nut on the back that I can tighten up. So what we're going to do to finish this up is we're going to that shouldn't be too bad. Yeah, just like that right there. Coming off there, straight down to here. Yeah, I know I have a little air trap in it. All you eagle eyes out there. But, you know, this isn't for winterization anymore. I couldn't get the fittings I bought didn't fit where those caps go, so I will still have to winterize it by crawling underneath. But to get the main tank drained just for transport between campsites, I think that'll work. Whenever I winterize my camper, I blow it out with air. I don't trust the antifreeze to make sure it gets in everywhere. If you blow it out with air, then air doesn't freeze. At least not enough to cause damage. Actually, I might be able to get all that out of there. Alright, we'll see what we got. So, these PEX clamps are kind of nice. The only way, you gotta have these special pliers. Picked these up many moons ago for like 20 bucks. Anyway, what you do is you put them on here, on that little divot there. Let's see if I can do this. Now, the pliers, will not open again. Sorry, it's tough to do this one-handed until you hear it ratcheting. Sorry, I need it both hands. That's a good crimp there. And the pliers won't open until it's closed completely. It's crimped the whole way. So there's never a half crimp. This side here, unfortunately, got a hose clamp. But I think that's pretty good. I'm pretty tickled with that. Sorry. Yeah, right there's my water drain. Right over to there. Might be a little dip in the line there, but hey, whatever. I'll winterize it, I'll blow it out with air. That's what I do with the whole system. Oh, and if you're going to be doing any work with PEX tubing, you need those pliers, first off. And you should get a set of these here. These are Cobalt brand. All I do is, and you can cut off little bits and chunks at a time fairly easily. Yeah, we'll fill it with water tomorrow and see how it works. So, one of Barry's laws is don't ever be afraid to rethink and redo and fix problems where you find them. And this is better than I have, but it still wasn't what I wanted. Mostly because, I don't know if you guys can see it real well, but this dip is lower than the spigot, so there'll always be water laying in here. And my other two drains aren't tied in. I tried to find a fitting to fit this drain, It's to make it a PEX, but then today I had a bright idea and we're going to try it out and see what happens. Okay, I can't really film too well underneath here. I'll explain more in depth in a little bit, but for right now, I got to get to work. So, focus. Okay, there we go. Now I think that works better because it's coming down, 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 and out. And I got my other two drains tied in. I'll explain the hose clamps in a minute. There's a specific reason why those are hose clamps on all of these fittings, and these are your regular crimp PEX tube clamps. There is a reason for that. But I'm going to start filling this thing with water and make sure it doesn't leak at all. And I'm going to move inside because it looks like the sky might be going to leak. Alright, so let's go over my unique arrangement of clamps and how I did all that, and why some of them have hose clamps and some of them have PEX tube clamps. This is the type of fitting that I was using on the hose clamps. Okay, it's meant for this plastic or rubberized tubing. It's got a little nylon on it. You can see I'll never get that hose clamp off unless I disassemble it. But I wanted to combine the two, and I couldn't find a fitting to fit this specific shape and thread onto here that would be airtight. So what I did was I got some PEX tube. Now the PEX tubing is real close to going on, but not quite there. So here's what you got to do. Now you got to keep in mind this is a non-pressurized drain, so there's no extra water pressure, but you get out your heat gun, okay? And what you're going to do is you're going to heat this up just to the point where it becomes a little supple. You're not looking to melt the tubing, you're just looking to heat it up so that it's more pliable. That's probably all you need. Then you can take your two fittings and ba-bam, it just slid right on there. Now as that cools, it's going to contract too, but the problem with a PEX tube clamp is by the time you slide it down here, it's too big already. So that's where the hose clamp comes in. And you tighten that puppy down. Now, I've personally used with rubber line hose clamps and run 60 psi fuel pressure through them. So I have full confidence that my 0 psi drain, that will be fine. And then what that allows me to do is on this end I can go ahead and connect, you know, your PEX T. Oh, you want to put your clamp on first before you put a fitting on. But there you go. And then to tighten these down, you slide them not quite all the way down, but you want them down most of the way, so a little bit showing. And then you get a nice set of PEX tube pliers. You do have to buy the pliers. I think these were like 30 bucks. But then a nice thing about them is they ratchet together. Sorry. This is actually pretty tough. And once they release, you have a perfect clamp. And the best part is because these are spiraled, is you can usually, there you go, rotate them. Okay? And the nice thing about these pliers is they will not release until you get a full clamp. So if you start clamping one, like right there, oh, I can't pull them apart. The only thing I can do is push them further together until they get all the way together, and then they'll release. So that's why I did all that. So now I got this fitting married to this fitting, and I can branch off from there. Now just real quick, we're going to run out there and take a look. Get you out of my tripod before my battery dies and before it rains. It shouldn't take much water, but I've been filling my tank. And it is really going to pour. I'll have to go get the kids here in a minute. But I'm not sure if you can hear that, but there's definitely water going in. And the ground is dry. Now I noticed afterwards, unfortunately, there is a slight dip in my line right about there. Very, very, very slight dip. Very slight. But I'm either not going to worry about it because at the end of the year I'm going to blow it out with air, or I can take and cut my line, shorten it up a little bit, and then put a union in. I think what killed me was this first drop is just a little too long. But not that bad for somebody who didn't know half of what they were doing when they started. You know what I mean? So if I'm going to leave with any kind of advice, that is, the best projects in my opinion to work on are the ones where the worst you're going to do is fix it, because it wasn't working before, and if it doesn't work when you're done, you didn't lose anything. But I think this was a very successful project. And the last little telltale for how successful this was is when you go like this. Oh yeah. Water draining out. Alright, that's it. That's the last of this GSE shop project. Have a good day.